The smell of jet fuel, stale recirculated air, and exhaustion is a particular perfume. It clings to your clothes, your hair, the back of your throat. As Leo and I shuffled through customs at JFK, that smell was the banner of our return to reality. We were sun-kissed, pleasantly tired, and brimming with the soft, golden memories of 2 weeks in Italy. Our camera rolls were full of crumbling Roman ruins, misty Tuscan hills, and plates of food that looked like art. Our suitcases were heavier with ceramic souvenirs, leather goods, and bottles of Chianti. Our hearts were lighter. It had been our dream vacation, saved for and planned over 3 meticulous years. A final, triumphant hurrah before we started trying for a baby next year. I already missed the espresso, Leo groaned, heaving his backpack onto one shoulder as we waited for our Uber. His beard was a little fuller, his eyes crinkled from constant squinting into the Italian sun. I missed the silence, I replied, leaning into him. No work emails, no project deadlines, just us and 1,000 years of history. I was Sadie, an architectural historian. The trip had been, for me, a pilgrimage. For Leo, a software engineer, it had been a delicious, carb-loaded detachment from code. The Uber ride to our Brooklyn apartment was a bleary-eyed transition from dream to reality. The gray February sludge, the aggressive traffic, the skeletal trees. It was a harsh tonal shift from the ochre and terracotta palette we'd left behind. But as we pulled up to our brownstone, a familiar warmth seeped through the fatigue. Home. Our first-floor apartment, a one-bedroom we'd painstakingly renovated and decorated over 5 years. It was us in physical form. My love of clean lines and inherited heirlooms, his love of mid-century modern and tech-friendly clutter. It was our sanctuary. Leo fumbled with his keys at the building's main door. "Why is it always so stiff when you come back?" he muttered. The lock finally gave, and we dragged our luggage into the shared foyer, then to our own door, apartment 1A. He slid the key into the deadbolt. It turned smoothly. Too smoothly. He pushed the door open, and we stopped. Just inside the threshold, suitcases at our feet, we froze. The smell hit me first. Not the familiar scent of our lemon verbena cleaner and old books and the particular dust of our space. This was a new smell. Acrid, chemical. The unmistakable, cloying scent of fresh paint. Cheap, fresh paint. Then the visual tsunami crashed over me. The walls. Our soft, warm, gallery-white walls were gone. In their place was a color I can only describe as Grandma's Pepto-Bismol. A viscous, glossy pink that seemed to suck the light from the room. It wasn't a gentle blush. It was a violent Pepto-Bismol explosion. "What the?" Leo whispered, his voice strangled. My eyes darted. Our beloved navy blue, velvet sectional, the one we'd saved for a year to buy, was gone. In its place was a gigantic, puffy sectional upholstered in a floral chintz that screamed 1987. The coffee table Leo's grandfather had made from reclaimed barnwood, replaced by a glass and gilt monstrosity with curlicue legs. The bookshelves we'd built together, filled with our books and photos and little finds, gone. Now there was a wall unit of fake golden oak, holding porcelain figurines of shepherds and shepherdesses. I took a step forward, my knees weak. The hardwood floors, which we had refinished to a matte walnut, were now hidden beneath a wall-to-wall shag carpet in a beige so aggressive it looked dirty. I felt a scream building in my chest, a pause, a fraction of a second too long. "Your quilt, honey?" "Oh, that old thing." It was looking so tired and worn out. I figured with all the beautiful new things, you'd want something fresh and modern. "Where is it?" I screamed, the sound tearing from my throat. Leo flinched beside me. "Goodness, Sadie, no need to shout. I donated it, along with a lot of the other old, dingy stuff, to Goodwill. They'll find it a good home, I'm sure. Now, aren't you just thrilled with the apartment?" I worked my fingers to the bone. "I knew you'd never get around to making it nice, so I hung up. I stared at the phone. Donated it to Goodwill. The phrase echoed in the hollowed-out chamber of my mind. Goodwill. My grandmother's 100,000 stitches, her aching fingers, her love, was now in a bin somewhere, priced at $5. We're already in a landfill. I looked at Leo. His jaw was clenched, so tight a muscle jumped. "She donated Granny's quilt," I said, needing to hear the words to believe them. "I heard," he said, his voice dangerously low. He took the phone from my numb hand. He called his mother back, putting it on speaker. "Sadie, really? That was so rude to hang up, Gloria's voice chirped. Mother. Leo's tone could have frozen fire. What have you done? Leo, darling. I gave your home a makeover. A mother's gift. You should be thanking me. Do you have any idea how much I spent? I maxed out 2 credit cards. But it was worth it to see the look on your faces. We don't want a makeover. Leo roared. The sound was so foreign coming from his usually calm husband that I jumped. We want our home back. We want Sadie's quilt back. You had no right. I had every right, she shot back, her sweetness evaporating into defensive shrillness. You left the place a dump. That quilt was a rag. I've done you a favor. You're welcome. You are going to get every single item you removed back here by tomorrow, Leo seethed. You are going to tell us exactly which Goodwill you took them to. And you are going to hire painters to restore our walls to the original color. Today, Gloria laughed. A light, tinkling, insane laugh. Oh, honey, don't be dramatic. The old stuff is gone. I'm not a magician, and I certainly can't afford to undo perfection. Now, I expect you to reimburse me for the expenses. I have all the receipts. I was thinking we could discuss a payment plan. The audacity was so astronomical, so utterly unmoored from reality, that for a moment, both Leo and I were speechless. You want us to pay you? Leo finally said, disbelief flattening his words. Well, of course. I invested in your property. It's an improvement. I'm not made of money, Leo. I expect you to do the right thing and cover the costs. It came to $8,745.63. I'll text you the breakdown. The call ended. We stood in our neon blue kitchen, surrounded by the physical proof of a profound personal violation, and simply stared at each other. The jet lag, the disorientation, the grief, it all coalesced into a single, solid ball of rage in my gut. We have to find the quilt, I said, my voice suddenly clear. That's the first thing. We have to try. We spent the rest of that day and the next in a nightmarish scavenger hunt. We called every Goodwill and thrift store within a 20-mile radius. We described the quilt in painful detail. We drove to the 3 most likely locations, scouring the linen bins, feeling like grave robbers. Nothing. It was gone, swallowed by the vast, anonymous maw of second-hand commerce. The loss was a physical ache, a constant, throbbing emptiness in the center of my chest. Concurrently, we dealt with the grotesque new reality of our home. We took pictures of everything. We documented the paint cans left in the basement storage unit, blushing bride pink, sunshine surprise yellow, regal blue. We found the receipts, not in our apartment, but later, in the lawsuit. She'd kept them all, meticulously, as proof of her investment. We sent Gloria a formal, lawyer-drafted letter. We'd quickly consulted one, a friend of a friend, demanding she rectify the vandalism to our property and return all removed items or provide full restitution for their value. We changed the locks. We blocked her number, but not before she unleashed a torrent of abusive texts, calling me ungrateful, a gold digger who had turned her son against her, and Leo a spineless puppet. We thought that was the depth of it. The betrayal, the loss, the estrangement. We were grieving and furious, trying to figure out how to scrape together the money to undo the damage, while also dealing with the emotional fallout. Leo was racked with guilt. I should have known, he kept saying. She's always been pushy, but this is pathological. I didn't blame him. I blamed the monstrous sense of entitlement that lived inside his mother. 3 weeks after our return, the real blow landed. I was home alone, trying to work from the dining nook. The table was now a wrought iron eyesore, when there was a sharp knock on the door. It was a process server. Are you Sadie or Leonardo Varga? A bored-looking young man asked. I'm Sadie Varga. You've been served. He handed me a thick envelope. My heart plummeted through the shag carpet. I shut the door and leaned against it, fumbling the envelope open. The words swam before my eyes. Supreme Court of the State of New York. Gloria Varga, plaintiff, against Sadie and Leonardo Varga, defendants. Complaint for unjust enrichment and breach of implied contract. She was suing us for $8,745.63. The cost of the paint, the furniture, the carpet, the labor of the handyman she'd hired. I sank to the floor, the papers scattering around me. The sheer, breathtaking gall of it. She destroys our home, throws away my most precious belonging, and then sues us for the privilege. When Leo came home and saw the papers, He let out a sound that was half groan, half roar. He picked up a hideous porcelain shepherdess from the new shelf and threw it against the Pepto-Bismol wall. It shattered with a profoundly satisfying crash. "We are fighting this," he said, his eyes blazing. "We are not giving her a cent. We are countersuing. For destruction of property. For emotional distress. For the value of the quilt." And so began the Great Varga War. We found a real lawyer, not just a friend. Her name was Anya Sharma, and she was a pit bull in a tailored suit. She took one look at our photos and the complaint and said, "Oh, this is delicious. We're going to have fun with this." Her confidence was a lifeline. The first step was mediation, a court-ordered attempt to settle before a costly trial. We met in a sterile conference room. Gloria arrived dressed as if for church, in a powder blue suit and a hat. She looked like a sweet little old lady. She had a binder full of receipts and printed out photos of our before apartment. She'd apparently taken them on her phone during her plant watering visits, which she'd captioned with words like dreary, filthy, and embarrassing. The mediator, a weary-looking man, began. "Mrs. Varga, you are seeking reimbursement for improvements made to your son and daughter-in-law's apartment. Can you explain your reasoning?" Gloria leaned forward, oozing faux sincerity. "Of course. As a mother, I only want the best for my boy. Their home was a disgrace. Sadie has no homemaking skills. It was depressing. I saw an opportunity to bless them with a beautiful space, a proper foundation for the grandchildren I pray for. I invested my own savings. All I ask is that they honor my sacrifice and pay me back. It's only fair." I felt my nails dig into my palms. Leo put a hand on my arm. Anya spoke, her voice cool and precise. "Your Honor, this is not a case of home improvement. It is vandalism. My clients did not request, consent to, or desire any of these changes. In fact, they expressly entrusted Ms. Gloria with one task, watering plants. She abused that trust in the most extreme way imaginable. Furthermore, among the items she illegally disposed of was an irreplaceable family heirloom, a handmade quilt with significant sentimental value. We have appraisals placing its value well over $5,000, given its artistry and emotional worth." Gloria scoffed. "A quilt? That old rag? It was threadbare. I did them a favor. And how can you put a price on a mother's love? On the work I did? We can put a price on the paint we have to strip, the floors we have to refinish, the furniture we have to replace, and the heirloom you stole and discarded," Anya replied evenly. "We are counterclaiming for $45,000 in damages and restitution." Gloria's face purpled. $45,000. That's extortion. After everything I've done for you, Leo. I changed your diapers. I put you through college. You did not put me through college, Mom, Leo said, his voice trembling with controlled fury. I had scholarships and loans. And changing my diapers 30 years ago does not give you the right to destroy my home and sue me now. The mediation was a spectacular failure. Gloria wept, raged, and played the victim. She insisted we were greedy, that we hated her, that I had poisoned her son against her. The mediator finally threw up his hands. "It seems you are too far apart. The court will have to decide." Discovery was a special kind of hell. Gloria's lawyer demanded proof of the quilt's value, proof of our original decor, proof that we hadn't secretly wanted the changes. We had to furnish years of text messages with Gloria, which painted a vivid picture of her escalating boundary stomping, constant criticism of my decorating, unsolicited offers to help, clean, passive-aggressive comments about when we'd give her grandchildren. Her own discovery responses were revealing. She had no proof we asked for any changes. She admitted she'd acted because she believed our home was unfit and that she was doing God's work. She stated under oath that the quilt was worthless fabric. Meanwhile, we lived in the grotesque parody of our home. We couldn't afford to fix it all at once, not with legal fees mounting. We started with the bedroom, the epicenter of my grief. We sold the canopy bed and the terrible dresser on Craigslist for a pittance, used the money to buy a cheap IKEA frame and dresser. We painted the walls a calming, soft gray. It was a foothold of sanity. We closed the door on the pink and yellow horror of the rest of the apartment. The lawsuit dragged on for months. It consumed our lives, our conversations, our bank account. The stress was immense. We fought, not about the case, but about the sheer exhaustion of it. The guilt Leo carried was a third person in our marriage. My grief for the quilt would ambush me at random moments, while folding laundry or seeing a similar pattern in a movie, and I'd just sit down and cry. Gloria escalated outside the courtroom. She sent letters to our employers, claiming we were financially irresponsible and suing our own saintly mother. She posted vague, martyring statements on Facebook. When your own children turn on you for trying to help, pray for me. She enlisted flying monkeys, Leo's aunt, a few family friends, who called to lecture us about respecting our elders. We stopped engaging. Anya advised complete radio silence. It was the hardest and best advice. We were a fortress, Leo and I. The siege had welded us together in a new, tougher way. The trial date was set. The night before, we sat in our half-sanctified bedroom, surrounded by IKEA furniture and gray walls. Leo held my hands. No matter what happens tomorrow, he said, we are never letting her back in. Not just into the apartment. Into our lives. She's dead to me. I nodded, tears in my eyes. I'd lost not just a quilt, but any illusion of a mother-in-law. I just wish I had the quilt, I whispered. The courtroom was intimidating. Gloria, across the aisle, looked small and old and brittle. She kept dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Her lawyer argued passionately about a mother's love, about implied consent. They gave her a key. They knew her character. About unjust enrichment. They are living in a beautifully upgraded apartment and refusing to pay. Our turn. Anya was magnificent. She presented the timeline, the vacation, the simple plant watering request. She showed the before photos of our warm, tasteful apartment. Then she displayed the after photos. A gasp went through the few observers in the gallery. The contrast was ludicrous, comical in its awfulness. She entered into evidence the paint cans, the receipts for furniture that was clearly not to our taste. Then, she called me to the stand. Anya led me through the story of the quilt. How Granny Elsie made it. What it represented. The day I came home and found it gone. My search through the Goodwills. I didn't have to fake the emotion. My voice broke. I cried. The judge, a stern-looking woman in her 60s, listened intently. And what is the value of this quilt to you, Mrs. Varga? Anya asked. It's irreplaceable, I said, looking directly at the judge. It was my grandmother's love made tangible. Its value isn't in dollars. It's in memory. It's in history. And it's gone because Gloria decided her taste was more important than my history. Gloria's lawyer objected. Sentimental value is not quantifiable, Your Honor. The judge overruled. I'll decide what's quantifiable. Continue. Anya then presented the appraisal from a textile expert who had evaluated similar quilts by known artisans from the same period and region. He placed its fair market value between $4,000 and $6,000. For a quilt, Gloria looked like she was going to be sick. Leo took the stand and spoke about the violation, the financial burden, the emotional toll on our marriage. He was calm, clear, and devastating. My mother didn't do this out of love. She did it out of control. And when she couldn't control our reaction, she sued us to punish us. In her closing, Gloria's lawyer painted us as ungrateful monsters. Anya painted Gloria as a narcissistic vandal who believed her desires overrode the property and emotional rights of others. The judge took a week to deliberate, the longest week of our lives. When we reconvened, the atmosphere was tense. The judge adjusted her glasses and began to speak. This is, without hyperbole, one of the most egregious cases of boundary violation and bad faith I have seen in my courtroom, she began, her gaze resting sternly on Gloria. The plaintiff, Gloria Varga, was granted limited access to the defendant's home for a specific, minor purpose. She flagrantly abused that trust. Her actions were not improvements. They were the imposition of her will upon the property of others. The law does not recognize a mother's right to vandalize. Gloria shrunk in her seat. On the claim of unjust enrichment, dismissed with prejudice. The defendants were not enriched, they were grievously harmed. On the claim of breach of implied contract, dismissed. No reasonable person would imply a contract for a complete, unwanted home overhaul from a request to water plants. She turned to us. On the counterclaim for destruction of property and conversion, upheld. The defendants are awarded the cost of remediating the damage caused by the plaintiff. Based on submitted estimates, that sum is $22,000. Furthermore, for the intentional disposal of the quilt, an item of unique sentimental and provable market value, The court awards $5,000 in damages. She slammed her gavel. Case closed. We won. We won decisively. Gloria was ordered to pay us $27,000. The look on her face was a grotesque mask of outrage and disbelief. She started to protest, but her lawyer shut her down, grabbing her arm and hustling her out of the courtroom. We stood there, numb. Anya smiled, a sharp, triumphant thing. Congratulations. You got justice. The money came, eventually, after threats of wage garnishment from Anya. It took months, but it came. We used it to fix our home. We stripped the pink, yellow, and blue walls back to white. We ripped up the shag carpet and refinished the hardwoods. We sold every last piece of furniture Gloria had bought, piece by piece, using the funds to slowly replace our own things. We couldn't get the originals back, but we found new pieces, chosen together, that we loved even more. The apartment became ours again. Better, in a way, because we had fought for it. It was a symbol of our resilience. But the quilt was still gone. That loss was a quiet, permanent scar. One afternoon, about a year after the trial, I was scrolling through Etsy, looking for a throw pillow, when I stumbled upon a store called Granny's Attic Revival. It specialized in repairing and restoring old textiles. On a whim, fueled by a hope I knew was foolish, I sent them an email. I described the quilt in minute detail. I attached the few good photos I had of it on our bed. I said it had been lost, possibly donated to Goodwill in Brooklyn in February of last year. Did they ever come across anything like it? It was a shot in a million. 2 days later, I got a reply. My heart stopped when I saw the subject line. Query about double wedding ring quilt. The email read, Dear Sadie, your description is incredibly specific. I don't have your quilt. But about 8 months ago, I did acquire a damaged double wedding ring quilt top from a bulk fabric lot purchased from a Goodwill distribution center in New Jersey. It was just the top, no batting or backing, and it had some staining and tears. The fabrics match your description, soft blues, creams, faded roses. I've been slowly restoring it in my spare time. Could this be it? Attached was a photo. I cried. I cried so hard Leo came running from the other room, thinking I'd hurt myself. There, on a work table, was my grandmother's quilt top. It was torn in a few places, stained at one edge, but it was unmistakable. Her stitches, her fabric choices. It was like seeing a ghost, wounded but alive. It was her. Goodwill had likely sold it as scrap fabric. This angel of a woman, a stranger named Beatrice, had rescued it. We called her immediately. Through tears, I confirmed details only I would know. A tiny, almost invisible heart-shaped stitch near one corner where Granny had made a mistake and fixed it. A specific blue floral that came from my Easter dress when I was 7. It was a match. Beatrice refused any payment. The story is payment enough, she said, her voice kind. Let me finish restoring it. It's what I do. It's my honor. 6 months later, a package arrived. Inside, carefully folded, was Granny Elsie's quilt. Fully restored. The tears were mended with near-invisible stitches. The stains were gone. Beatrice had even quilted it with a beautiful, simple pattern and added a new, soft backing. A note was attached. She wanted to come home to you. Now she's whole again. Beatrice. I laid it on our bed, on the new duvet cover we'd bought. I ran my hands over the familiar fabrics, the now perfect stitches. It wasn't exactly the same. It had been through a trial, too. It had been damaged, discarded, and saved. It had been mended, just like us. Leo wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my head. We looked at the quilt, a symbol of love that had survived malice, negligence, and the abyss of a thrift store bin. We're okay, he whispered. We are, I said, leaning into him. The apartment was ours. The quilt was home. And the woman who had tried to break it all was a distant, toxic memory, silenced by the law and the profound, mending power of saying no more. The door was closed. The locks were changed. And on our bed, a lifetime of love, almost lost but fiercely recovered, kept us warm.